Your favorite Grey's Anatomy character is on the table. Blood everywhere. The beeping of the heart monitor slows, the doctors are panicking, and suddenly, flatline. Grey's Anatomy has given us some insane, jaw-dropping surgeries over the years, but the ones that hit the hardest, when it's the main characters fighting for their lives, from bullet wounds to deadly crashes, botched operations, and last-second saves, these moments had fans on the edge of their seats, yelling at their screens. And trust me, you won't believe how some of them ended. Let's count down the 10 most intense, nerve-shattering surgeries in Grey's Anatomy history. Starting off at number 10, we have Derek Shepherd shot through the heart. The last episodes of Season 6 are two of the best episodes of Grey's Anatomy. It was one of the show's most tense and devastating season finales. A shooter went on a rampage through the hospital, and many of the main cast were caught in his crossfire.
You know, I have a patient having seizures in there. Go find a nurse and ask them.
Ma'am.
Look, you're not even supposed to be back here. I'm not a tour guide, I'm a surgeon, okay?
Dude, what the?
One such character was Derek, who was chief at the time. The gunman shot him in the heart, and Christina had to save him.
Feel anything? Can you see where the blood's coming from?
Not yet. You know what? I can't see.
Things were made unbearably worse by the fact that, during surgery, the gunman entered the OR and threatened to kill Christina if she carried on operating. At number 9, we have April Kepner involved in a car crash. April had some of the best character development in the show. In her penultimate episode as a series regular, she and Matthew Taylor were involved in a severe traffic collision. Matthew was brought to the hospital, but it took a while for the doctors to realize that April was lying injured in the freezing cold.
Okay, morphine, 8 milligrams.
Oh, April.
We're getting her. Just try to relax.
April's here? She's okay?
Wait. What?
What do you mean she's okay?
She warned me about a curve.
By the time Owen brought her to the hospital, April barely had any life signs at all. The doctors of Grace Sloan Memorial Hospital worked tirelessly to save April's life. It was an extremely emotional and nerve-wracking surgery, and everyone was relieved when April finally woke up. And at number 8, we have Meredith Grey surgical complications during a power cut. In Season 9, Meredith realized she was pregnant. In typical Meredith fashion, she couldn't allow herself to be happy in case something went wrong with the pregnancy. All seemed fine until she slipped and fell down the stairs.
Why are I perfect there?
I don't know.
No lasting damage occurred, but Meredith had to go into surgery for a cesarean section. Just as the hospital power went out,
Meredith, I need you not to push.
Why?
There's face presentation. I can feel your baby's face. So we're gonna need to do a C-section.
C-section? I do not want to have surgery. Right, you know what? It's just a C. That's barely surgery. A moron could do a C. No offense.
during the surgery, Meredith's blood wouldn't clot, and watching Meredith's fear was terrifyingly intense for viewers. Number 7, we have Miranda Bailey suffered a heart attack. For 18 seasons and counting, Miranda Bailey has been the cornerstone of Grey's Anatomy. However, in season 14, that all changed, as viewers witnessed Bailey in probably the most vulnerable state she has ever been in on the show. She admitted herself to Seattle Presbyterian Hospital because she knew she was having a heart attack.
Miranda Bailey. I am chief of surgery at Grace Sloan Memorial.
Surgery is upstairs on 4.
Okay, interrupt me again. I'm coming over that counter. My name is Miranda Bailey. I am chief of surgery at Grace Sloan Memorial, and I believe that I am having a heart attack.
Unbelievably, no one took her seriously, and Bailey was terrified she was going to die. Her symptoms got worse until she required emergency surgery, which infuriated Maggie Pierce. And at number 6, we have George O'Malley involved in a bus collision. The season 5 finale seemed uneventful at first. A pedestrian was admitted after being hit by a bus, and the doctors had to devise a surgical plan to save his life. However, when Meredith was examining him, he traced 007 on her palm, George O'Malley's nickname.
7?
7.
It's George! It's George! It's George! John Doe is George!
With the realization that this was George on the operating table, the surgery suddenly became much more stressful. George proceeded to flatline in the OR right before the episode ended, forcing viewers to wait before finding out George's fate. Coming off at number 5, we have Richard Webber, Electrocuted. In addition to Meredith giving birth in a blackout, Richard was also nearly fatally injured during the season 9 finale. Due to flooding and a live cable, as soon as Richard switched on the backup generators, he received a massive electrical shock. He wasn't found until hours later, and the rest of the surgeons were shocked at realizing that the normally unsinkable Richard was almost at death's door. There were also issues regarding whether he was strong enough to make it through surgery.
4 times.
What the hell do you think you're doing? Cutting open a man in cardiogenic shock with nothing on his CT. There's dead tissue somewhere inside him. I'd like to find it before it kills him. He can't handle this stress until his cardiac stats are stabilized.
But thankfully, he survived. At number 4, we have Callie Torres, involved in a car crash while pregnant. During the infamous musical episode of Season 7, Callie and Arizona were involved in a car crash. Arizona escaped mostly unscathed, but Callie was pregnant at the time and sustained a fairly severe brain injury that caused everyone around her to appear as though they were singing. In the events that followed, Callie underwent major surgery. Although the tension was lessened somewhat by all the singing, simply watching all of Callie's loved ones fall apart at the thought of her dying was enough to consider this surgery utterly nerve-wracking. And at number 3, we have Derek Shepherd, involved in a car crash. This was the worst thing to happen to Derek and Meredith. While driving, Derek encountered a car crash. After helping the victims, Derek got into his vehicle, only to be hit by a truck. To make matters worse, he was not brought to Gray Sloan Memorial, but rather to the more inexperienced Dillard Medical Center. There were a lot of surgical errors made during Derek's operation. They refused to get him a CT scan despite clear head injuries, and they didn't drill any burr holes to relieve the pressure.
Look at the ultrasound. He's bleeding into his belly. We don't have time for a CT.
Arrogant because she's younger than you, and probably because she's a woman.
Just think that
We don't have time for a CT. He needs to go straight to the OR.
You have this. Come on, don't back down.
But I don't think we have a handle.
DCS hasn't changed since he got here. The CT can wait.
Watching Derek realize he was going to die was just utterly heartbreaking. At number 2, we have Richard Webber, Cobalt poisoning. In one of the show's more recent seasons, Richard began displaying strange symptoms. He was quick to anger, developed a tremor in his hand, and became confused and disoriented.
Get your hands off of me.
Somebody please call 911. I think he's having a stroke, and somebody turn on the lights.
Finish my presentation. I gotta finish.
Oh my God.
The doctors were extremely concerned, especially as no one could think of a diagnosis. Finally, Andrew DeLuca realized the cause of Richard's symptoms. Cobalt was leaking from Richard's metal hip and entering the bloodstream.
We need to
No,
resterilize.
Bailey, listen to me, okay? Look, you don't need to do the biopsy, all right? His hip replacement was made out of cobalt.
We did a heavy metals test. It came back negative, right?
Not for cobalt. That test is mercury, arsenic, and lead. We wouldn't see that.
Right.
The surgery was nail-biting because viewers were on tenterhooks as to whether DeLuca's diagnosis was correct. Finally, at number 1, we have Andrew DeLuca stabbed. Andrew DeLuca was definitely an underrated character who deserved to live and become an amazing surgeon. He was stabbed while pursuing a sex trafficker in Station 19, and Teddy and Owen worked as hard as they could to save his life. Initially, it looked as though they had succeeded, with DeLuca waking up and even having a conversation with his sister. However, complications arose and he was wheeled back for more emergency surgery. Try as they might, Teddy and Owen couldn't save him, and DeLuca succumbed to his injuries. And that's a wrap on some of the most nail-biting surgeries in Grey's Anatomy history. These moments had us glued to our screens, hoping our favorite doctors would make it through. Whether it was a risky procedure or a life or death situation, these surgeries proved just how intense things can get at Gray Sloan. Which one had you the most stressed about? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more Grey's Anatomy content. See you next time on Cinema Clips!